In Iraq, Kurdish forces have lost more territory a day after government troops took over the northern city of Kirkuk. They've now withdrawn from the towns of Sinjar, Mahmud and Bashika, as well as several oil fields. Searching for people who are still missing after the worst bomb attack in Somalia's history. More than 300 people were killed in a truck blast on Saturday. The president says his military has liberated the southern city of Marawi after a 5-month battle against ISIL-linked fighters. President Rodrigo Duterte says the city has been freed from what he called terrorists, but his military says fighting is still continuing. More on that story with Jamila Alandogan joining us from Marawi itself. So, as I'm saying, the president was in the main battle zone where a flag-raising ceremony was held together with the troops, Jamila. So he's clearly saying that the city has been liberated.
Yes, officially, the flag was raised, the national anthem was sung, the oath of loyalty was read today for the first time in many months since the battle began more than 4 months ago now. But, you know, there are still pockets of fighting in different parts of Marawi here, that there are still several fighters still in the main battle zone near the lake that are still holding position in a few houses. So the ceremony today was merely symbolic. It was hastily arranged, but its significance was not lost on the civilians who have lost their homes and their loved ones, and also on soldiers who have sacrificed their lives. As you know, more than 1,000 people have been killed since the fighting began. Over 100 of them are soldiers.
And 2 of the top leaders were killed in a military operation. So what does this mean for the group itself? Does this signal the end of the group?
Well, it was something that we asked the chief of staff yesterday. He said that this means it is going to be a setback for the Maute group, that it will take some time before they're able to find a leader. But if we look at the history of rebellion, of armed groups in the Philippines, the deaths of leaders do not necessarily mean an end to the presence of these groups. In fact, if we look at the leaders of the Abu Sayyaf, the leaders of the More Islamic Liberation Front, the More National Liberation Front, there was always someone who managed to take their place. And this is why peace negotiations with these groups are critical. So it may just be a matter of time before the Maute group are able to either evolve into a different group altogether or merge with other groups. There are many areas here being looked at now. It's important to note that there are also still sympathizers for the Maute. But according to President Rodrigo Duterte, the most important part now is rehabilitation so that people here can begin building their lives back again.
Okay, Jamila Alandogan, thank you. Well, the UN has released drone video to highlight the scale of the mass exodus of Rohingya refugees from Myanmar. Take a look at it. So more than 500,000 Rohingya have crossed the border to Bangladesh to escape a military crackdown in Rakhine State. Most people have made the journey on foot, and the number increases daily. And the UN has described the crackdown in Rakhine State as, quote, ethnic cleansing. Tanvir Chowdhury joining us from Cox's Bazar near the Bangladeshi border with Myanmar. And when you take a look at that drone footage, Tanvir, that was released by the UN, is there a suggestion then there is a large influx of Rohingya refugees who are still trying to cross into Bangladesh?
Indeed, very much so. The report we are getting from our sources as well as Bangladesh border guards that on Monday at least 10 to 15,000 Rohingya refugees crossed over to Bangladesh from the Shahpur Dip area, from Palankhali area, and several border points. On an average, according to Bangladesh government and aid agency, at least 2,000 to 4,000 people crosses into Bangladesh every day. Now, a lot of those people coming from western region of Rakhine, they take shelter in the forest areas or in Silted Island in Naf River and wait for the optimum moment to cross into Bangladesh because they're fearful of the Bangladesh border, the Myanmar border police, as well as there's no boats available in daytime because there's some restriction imposed by the Bangladesh Coast Guard for boats to bring in the refugees in daytime. I don't know exactly why, but they wait for the late night to cross into Bangladesh within the Bay of Bengal area and in the Naf River. So this is a continuous exodus of people, maybe not as large number in the month of August and early September, but there's continuous number of people crossing into it. It seems like a very active situation. When you talk to the Rohingya refugees, they're telling the similar stories of food not available. There's no aid agencies present in Western Rakhine or Southern Rakhine, and that the Myanmar security forces harassing them. They're very fearful of their life. They take shelter in the forested area. Their family and friends are telling them to come over to Bangladesh. At least you'll get security and some degree of food and shelter in Bangladesh side.
And speaking of Bangladesh itself and shelter specifically, tell us about the government's plan there to set up supposedly the largest refugee camp in the world.
Yeah, the food and the disaster and relief minister last Thursday came out with that statement. He's saying that they plan to build a large refugee camp that could accommodate up to 800,000 people. That's a staggering number of people, more than the population of Washington, D.C. Now, so far there's at least 12 scattered big camps around this area in Kutupalong and Cox's Bazar. Now, there was also a plan by the government, a controversial plan rather, to take all these Rohingya refugees into a remote island on the coast of Bangladesh. Now, that came under a lot of criticism. I don't know if the plan still is on or they backed out of that due to heavy criticism from international agencies. But the idea is to confine these Rohingya refugees. There's a political side to it. Bangladesh government doesn't want a lot of the Rohingyas to cross into other districts of the country. There are a lot of opposition parties are saying that the government isn't doing enough diplomatically to exert pressure on Myanmar to take these refugees. So they want to confine them in one place, so have a central distribution for aid and relief for these refugees.
All right, Tanvir, thank you.